Okay, so thank you guys for joining me this afternoon. Today, we are going to be talking about the listing presentation. I've got some good stuff to share with you guys. At the end, we'll take a look at the listing presentation in our branding page. So you guys have a starting point to reference after this training. And this will be a little bit interactive. I know we have all different areas of agents on this call, people who are really, really experienced, people who are new. So we can definitely kind of brainstorm and have some conversation around best practices of a listing presentation. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Alrighty. So I want to first, before I share my practices and some of the research I did in preparation for this appointment, what steps you take before you actually go and meet with the seller. Anybody got any feedback on something
Cedar
that
Swamp
you
Road,
always
Jackson.
do?
Arrival time on this route is similar to Jackson Mills Road Freehold.
Teresa, I'm going to mute you. I've got your GPS on, so be careful.
Sorry, I just did it.
That's okay. That's okay. So before the appointment, guys, things like a pre-listing packet. Do you send it or do you not send it? A qualification process for the seller. Do you offer that? Do you not do that beforehand? Can I get some feedback on how you guys are handling that process currently? Don't all speak at once.
What was the question again?
So before the appointment, do you send a pre-listing packet? Do you not? Do you do some sort of qualification process with the seller? Do you not? Do you save that for when you get there? Any steps that you take before the appointment?
Yeah, it definitely depends. I have an appointment today. So this appointment has been in the works for like 3 months. So he's been getting my drip campaigns or whatever I've set up for him for his neighborhood. So it really depends. If it's a spur of the moment appointment, then it's better you take it with you. But if you already have a relationship, and I'm sure then you've been sending some comps, some maybe from Sync, the market reports or the property detail reports. So it really depends. But I think the most important thing is to be prepared yourself. That way, whatever questions come up during the appointment, you can answer. And I don't like taking too much with me because I like just presenting myself. So
sure. Thanks for sharing. I think one of the things you said, you hit the nail on the head. At the bottom of this slide, I wrote different strokes for different folks. Every listing presentation, guys, is probably going to be different. Obviously, you have to do your research on the home, on the market around the home. You need to know your audience, you need to know your client. In Ramit's case, he's built this relationship for over 3 months. So he probably won't send a pre-listing packet because this seller's been getting consistent communication from him regarding his market. But if it's somebody that's a referral, you don't really have much information about, your process is going to look a little bit different before you go and meet them at their home. So some things to think about is whether you're going to do a pre-listing packet or not. When I put this training together, I did a lot of research, and extremely successful agents swear by it, and extremely successful agents don't do it. So keep in mind that this is your business and how you go about it is your choice. You want to find the best practices for you. If you do decide to do a pre-listing packet, some things you can include in there, like Ramit said, are a market report. We have those right in our Sync CRM program that'll generate for you. You can just email that information over to the seller, ask them to take a look beforehand. Maybe I've seen some people who send a list of their services, like lawn care or staging or cleaning services to provide to the seller to get their home ready to go on the market. The most important thing that you should do before the appointment is prepare. Because every seller is different, every home is different, your presentation should be different as well. We have the template there, but it is editable for a reason. because different strokes, different folks, right? Any other feedback or questions, comments, concerns on what to do before you get to the home? Awesome. So knowing your audience, this is a big one. This is big in anything, not just in a listing presentation, any form of your business. You want to understand the relationship that you have with your client. So you want to think about things like, is this a referral? Can you reach out to the client who referred them to get more information on the seller that you're going to be meeting for the first time? Do you know them already? Is it a friend or a family member? Is it a previous client? All of those little details are going to make a difference on how you approach the appointment. But again, most importantly, be prepared. I always go with a listing presentation. Sometimes it's 5 slides. Sometimes it's a printout that has 10 different slides, depending on who I'm going to meet. So I know I was getting some emails as I was advertising this training, and people were asking, well, should I print it out and do like a printout? Should I use it digitally? It depends on the client, guys. If it's an older demographic, I'd probably print it out. We have those bigger printout pieces of paper, so it's a nice visual for them as you're going through the presentation. If it's somebody in the millennial area or a little younger, I know a lot of people just come with an iPad or their tablet and run through the presentation that way. I would suggest you bring some sort of visual. Even if it's just a couple of slides or a couple of printouts, you want to back up a lot of your presentation with something visual for them to look at. And then make sure you practice your presentation for that home, for that seller before you get there. You don't just want to wing it. You want to make sure that you're well-versed and that you're prepared. Any questions on that? Okay, so the presentation itself. As I just mentioned, make sure you have some sort of visual. We'll take a look at the presentation offered to us from corporate at the end of this, but it's not just, you shouldn't just download it and go with that presentation. You will need to customize that to add information in about yourself, information about that particular market, and then information that's going to be most important to that seller. Some things that you're going to want to think about to include in your presentation is what separates you from your competition. And this is probably more important now than we've seen in a really long time, given the state of the market as a whole. You have to find a way to position yourself differently. So I wrote in here to create a UVP, a unique value proposition statement that defines the benefits of working with you. I know from experience, you don't want to give tons of stats, or you don't want to say, be too boastful. It has to come from a place of humility when you're going to describe why that seller should do business with you. An example I had come across on a really great agent who does a lot of business with sellers is the way he goes through his listing presentation. He said it's kind of like backwards to forward. So the end of the process to the beginning, meaning when he goes in, he does, his intro, he builds some rapport, he walks the home with the sellers. And then when he sits down, he talks about first thing. Okay, so last month I had a listing 3 blocks from here. It sold for $855 and we had listed it for $820. Right before that, we were in a multiple offer situation. Here's what I did with my seller. Here's how I presented the information. Before that, we had an open house. So you kind of can work it backwards. And when I came across it, I said, man, that's different. And I think when it comes to finding what separates you from your competition is what makes you different. How do you present this information differently than everybody else so you stand out amongst the crowd? Chances are, unless they know you personally, and even if they do, they're probably going to interview more than just you. So you want to keep that in mind as you're preparing for that particular seller. What can I deliver to them that's really going to resonate so I stand out amongst everybody else? Anybody have any tips, feedback, experiences on what you do in a listing presentation to separate yourself from the competition?
Well, I think you're just looking for common ground with the potential seller. You want to you may like something that they may like, and that helps break the ice.
Absolutely, Mike, you're 100% right. You always want to look for common ground in any communication with a potential client, right? Seller, buyer, renter. If you can make a personal connection with them, it speaks volumes. I saw an example of an agent, and she's a mom, and she has 3 small children. And she said she was scared to share that information in a listing presentation because she was worried the potential seller would say something like, oh, well, you've got 3 kids, you must be extremely busy. How are you going to have time to cater to me? Now, if she presented that information and the seller was also a mom with 3 kids, that person would probably understand, man, this agent works hard to support her family. She's going to do whatever she has to do to take care of her kids. And that in turn, with this being her business, that's the type of agent that I want to work for. So it might be appropriate for her to share that information in one listing presentation and not in the next. So keep that in mind, what Mike said, find some common ground, some commonality with your seller to make a connection with them. Think about how you will present your marketing strategy to the seller.
Thanks, Jen.
Okay, I know. Oh, I'm sorry, Mike, what's that?
No, I'm okay. I just had to get rid of I had a phone call I had to take care of.
Okay, gotcha. So think about your marketing strategy, guys, especially in today's market. The coming soon piece of it, now that we can do that, I think there's a lot of value in sharing that in the listing presentation with the potential seller, that you can advertise a coming soon before you even go live on the market to really, really generate a lot of buyer interest and activity. And then maybe you're going to follow that first weekend that you go live with an open house. Maybe you share with them some statistics of what's in your showing time log from your last listing. If you guys don't look at that stuff, it's pretty powerful. I'm sure Ramit, Teresa, you guys can attest to the fact that when you put a listing up in the first 3 or 4 days, you probably have north of 30 scheduled showings. So I think sharing that data could be a part of how you present your marketing strategy to show them what's been happening with clients who've worked with you in the past. Definitely share the office, right?
Yeah.
We've got, I don't even know how many agents we have, over 55, over 60 now, and they all have hungry buyers. So even just sharing that information that I can market this directly to my office, or maybe you know somebody who's interested in that home already, letting them know you already kind of have irons in the fire when it comes to bringing qualified and interested buyers. Think about social media. I know a lot of you are using listings to leads, which is a great tool to market a home. So however you want to detail that marketing strategy, it's important to prepare that information beforehand and make sure it's specific to that home, that market, and that seller. Obviously, you guys know this is the most important part about doing your research, knowing the numbers, knowing the comps in the area, especially because when you get to the portion of price in the presentation, you want to be overly educated in what's going on in that seller's market, so you can explain to them why you've suggested the price that you suggested. It has to come from the data and from what's going on in the market. Any questions on that?
No.
All right, you guys have heard me talk about this in any training I do that relates to speaking with potential customers. You have to uncover their motivation as to why they want to sell. Even if you know the client, don't make the assumption that they're automatically just going to pick you as their agent because they know you. If somebody follows up your listing presentation and provides them more value or more of a connection or more preparation, you might lose out on that listing. So the biggest thing to do in the listing presentation, and Mike touched on this as well, is making a connection with them. And the way you can do that is first by uncovering their motivation, asking them open-ended questions. What is making you want to sell this home? Any ideas on where you guys will be moving to next? When do you want to be in your new home? What's your timeline? What's your experience up to this point? Have you spoken with any other agents? Have you received any data or reports on what's going on in your marketplace? Do you have to sell this home before you can buy a new one? And then you have to just listen. You have to let the seller get this information out, because they're constantly going to drop little nuggets and gems on what their motivation is. And I think if you can really uncover their why, and then make a connection on what value you can bring to solve that why and meet that motivation, you're going to be a lot more successful than not. So what else do I have on here? Yeah, identify what's important to them, match that energy, match that importance, match that motivation. At the bottom here, I think this is important. Don't just give a speech on your accolades or what past clients said when you're trying to uncover their motivation. Save that for a different part in the presentation. When they're talking about why they want to sell this home, what their experience has been, what their concerns or fears are with listing their home, this is where you just need to be present, tune in, and stay dialed into what they're saying. And then make sure when you continue after this portion, you're matching that energy with them. You're meeting their needs regarding their motivation. This part is huge for me, guys. I think it's probably the most important part of your listing presentation, is really uncovering that motivation for the seller. Okay, so this is a suggested layout, because again, different strokes, different folks. This is going to change all the time anyway, but the way that I kind of walk through a presentation as far as laying out the slides that are offered to us is kind of in this order. So I talk about, if I've sent a pre-listing packet, obviously we'll start there. But after we walk the home and we have some conversation and just kind of building that rapport, when I go into my actual presentation, I present my marketing plan first. And that can start with, like I said before, how many agents we have in our office and how many active buyers they have looking for a home just like the seller's home. You can start there. What type of online exposure you can give them through our tools that we have, the photographer that you use, maybe show some previous photos on how they did such a great job marketing this home, and the power of the photographs helped it sell quickly. As you're walking the home, you should be thinking about things like staging, or if they cleaning services, or what the landscape looks like. The better the photos, the faster the house is going to sell. So first I go over my marketing plan for that client and their home. After that, I move into the market statistics. What's going on in their neighborhood? What's the active inventory? How many homes have sold in the last 30 days? What's the average days on the market? And you guys should know we've got so many tools where you can easily pull this information. You can print it out. You can add it into your listing presentation if you're doing it digitally. There's graphs to really give them a visual on what's happening in the marketplace at that moment. And the reason you want to do this is so, again, when you get to why you priced it the way you did, they understand the thought process you had behind that price. After that, I kind of take a step back and continue to ask some open-ended questions. Maybe just open up the presentations to see if the sellers have any questions at that point in time. And then I move into the price last. Any questions or even feedback, guys, on some of you who have had a lot of success in your listing presentation? How do you work through the conversation, or how do you present your material when you meet with a potential seller?
Well, let's see. Not that I have a lot of listings, but one of the things you want to bring them together and approach it that you're in this together. You're in this as a team, and that you work for them alone. But another thing you may want to consider, and in this market, it's important. You make the photography. I tell the people that I'm not going to take pictures with no iPhone. Your home is too important. I'm going to hire a professional photographer, and I'm going to pay for it. And I think, and sometimes that makes you a little different. But everyone, they will realize at that point that their home is going to be on Zillow, and they're going to be looking, and they're going to want to see some quality pictures. And that's just a couple things to throw out there. But
Yeah, absolutely.
Another important thing, Philly, is trying to figure out, and it's not the easiest thing to do, who's the decision maker, in the husband or the wife. And by the time you're 3/4 through that, hopefully you know. But
absolutely.
that's about it, Philly.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's very important to find a way to, like you said, differentiate yourself. What makes you different? I think when you're going through your marketing plan for that potential seller, you should let them know, the photographer that's going to come out is a professional. Here's their work, and I'm not charging you for that. It's up to me to sell this home in the least amount of time for the most amount of money. And one of the ways I do that is by bringing in a professional photographer, or maybe by bringing in a professional cleaning service, whatever meets the client's needs. I know previously, when I started, like my first listing presentation, I went to the home first just to do a quick walkthrough. And I said, can I just stop by? Can you show me the house? Just kind of want to get a feel for everything, and then we'll schedule a time to meet after. And I only spent maybe 5-7 minutes doing a quick walkthrough of the home. I snapped a couple of pictures of the front, and then I went back to the drawing board and put together my listing presentation. On the front page, I had their home, and it was just a photo from my phone. And then I used that later on and showed them a professional photographer to kind of share the difference on what we do. That particular listing, the client grew up in the house. They had lived there for over 50 years. It was cluttered. It was filled to the brim with stuff. And I knew the best way to market it would be to get all of that stuff out. I actually consulted with my broker because I was a newer agent at the time. And when I came back with my listing presentation, I let the potential seller know that we would offer to help him clean out the house. I would get a dump truck out there. He would not have to pay for that. I would absorb the cost. I could leave the dump truck there for up to 3 weeks, and I'd come over and help him clean. I got the listing, and we did exactly that. We got a dumpster out there. Some agents from my office at that time were gracious enough to help. We made a day of it. We cooked, we had some beers, and we helped this client clean out the house. That was almost 2 years ago, and he still sends me referrals. I'm working with him now as a buyer. And it's little things like that that I'm sure no other agent offered that he may have been interviewing. Now, the trick with that is I went to the house first. And that's kind of the way I've always liked to do it is, can I just stop by and see the house really quickly to see, what it looks like, and then I'm gonna come back and schedule a time for us to meet and discuss. If you have the opportunity to do that, I would suggest taking that route, because you'll be able to be even more prepared having seen the home before the listing presentation. But that's just one experience that I have that I can share with you guys. Okay, now I'm assuming some of you were expecting like some actual scripting in this training. Like, what am I supposed to say to these people? So I do have not the full script. Again, this is your business. So you're going to want to mold these words to suit you and your style and who you are as a realtor. But I do have some stuff to share as a starting point. So sometimes a lot of agents do like to do a brief qualification phone call before they go out for the listing presentation. This also gives you an opportunity to confirm that the day and time still works for them, and that whoever needs to be there is there. If it's a husband and a wife, and only the wife can be there, you definitely want to reset that day and time so the husband can be present as well. So just some scripting, hey, Mr. Customer, this is Philly with Realty One Group Central. Just calling to confirm our appointment for tomorrow at 12 p.m. Is that time still good for you? They'll say yes. Then I'll roll into, I'm really excited to have the opportunity to sell this home. I take this process very, very seriously, and I'm committing to getting your property sold highest price in the least amount of time. I want to make sure I'm 100% prepared before I come out tomorrow. So can I ask you a few other questions if you have a few minutes? And this should be a quick conversation, guys. But if you have the chance to do this beforehand, it's going to help you be more prepared when you get there. And it'll also give you some insight to their motivation before your appointment as well. And we know that that is the important piece. So here are just some examples of questions you can ask them if you're doing a pre-qualification before the appointment. So when do you want to sell the home? You're going down to Florida when you sell this, correct? And you hope to be there before fall next year, so your kids can start school, or whatever information you have previously. You can ask them, can you share with me again, what's the reason for you selling this property? What's your motivation behind selling it? Have you given any thoughts to the price you'd like to sell your home for? don't be afraid to ask that question, especially if you have an opportunity to ask them before the appointment. So much insight here on what their thought process is on what they would like to get when they sell this home. If they give you a number, you can ask them how they determine that price, and they say, oh, well, my neighbors down the street just sold for that price, and I figure my house is similar to theirs. Always uncover if there's any special features about the home they feel will hold extra value, anything that may be perceived negatively, maybe the roof is really old or something like that, and then let them know, thanks for sharing the info. I'm going to send over a marketing proposal, or I'm going to send over some information to your email. If you have a chance, can you just review it before I get there tomorrow? And this is just a good way to, one, differentiate yourself, because I feel like a lot of agents will book that listing appointment and there's no other communication from the time they set the appointment and then they show up to that client's house. So if that's one person that you're competing against, spending an extra 3 to 5 minutes having this phone call before that appointment is going to set you apart, make you stand out from your competition. Alrighty. So if you haven't had a chance to preview the home before you get there, obviously you're not just going to hop in and sit down at the table and start talking about what you think they should list their home for. You have to spend some time building rapport and also walking the house, right? So just some suggested scripting when you arrive at the home. Hey, Mr. Customer, I know you guys have a lot of choices when it comes to an agent and to what company you choose to represent you. So I just wanted to tell you one more time, I really appreciate the opportunity to meet with you today. Before we do anything else, could we just take a minute and you show me around your home? Would that be okay? And they're going to say yes. People love to talk about themselves. People love to talk about things that are theirs. And this is their home. Keep that in mind as well. So they love this place at one point. There's probably a lot of memories and value there. So get excited about them showing you around their house from their perspective. Ask them questions as you're walking through. You know, what's some of the most desirable features of the property for you when you guys purchased it? If you were a buyer currently looking at this home, what are some of the features you might change or modify to meet your needs? If they give you an answer, kind of dig a little deeper on that. Oh, can you tell me more about why you would change the vanity in the bathroom, whatever it is. This just allows you to get a better feel for who they are, what their motivation is, and what their goals are for selling the property. I always ask sellers, whether it's on the phone, whether it's in person, who they think the ideal buyer is for their home. They always have an answer. And again, this is just more leverage for you to be more successful in your presentation. And most likely, someone in our office probably has a buyer that will meet that ideal version that this seller has built up in their head. So once you finish the tour, let them know, great, now I've seen the property. Thank you so much for walking me through. Where should we sit down to continue our conversation? Dining room or the kitchen table? You don't want them to think that it's over, right? You haven't even gotten to the good stuff yet. So take the initiative to ask them where you should have a seat to go through your presentation. Some suggested scripting for when you guys get to the table. I always kind of like to preface what's going to happen in the presentation so you can let them know, you know, I want to share what we're going to cover today. And this is what I think is a good suggestion for those of you who don't know what to say. Based on our experience, there's 4 main areas most sellers want to discuss prior to putting their home on the market with me. And those 4 areas are your motivation to sell this home and the timing you need to get the home sold, what I'm going to do for you to expose your property, to make sure we get the highest number of qualified buyers in here, and to those agents who control the buyers. Number 3, how much the property will realistically sell for. And lastly, why I believe you should choose me as the agent to represent you. Then you can ask them, outside of those 4 things, is there anything else you would need to know during our meeting today? And I think this is just a good way to have some rapport before you go into the presentation, and also to let that client know what information you're going to present so they know what to expect. All right, some tips and feedback on discussing the list price. I would suggest, again, you guys, you can do this your way, but I would always suggest to never lead your listing presentation with pricing. Mike touched on this. Ramit's been working his upcoming listing presentation for 3 months. You have to establish rapport and commonality to earn their trust before you can start talking about price and money. Also, if you jump into price too quickly and they're not satisfied with that number or with what your commission rate is, they might ask you to cut your commission because they don't like the list price. Another tip, I would never suggest you cut your commission to gain a listing. Now, you guys know here, Purnima and Ramit, you guys can run your business however you see fit. If you have a listing and you want to take it at 1%, we will never tell you no. That is your choice. But please, please remember that your time, your service, your effort is invaluable. It's so, so important. And you don't want to downplay yourself by cutting your commission to get a listing. Just want to make sure I drive that one home. That listing that I got, the guy with the dumpster, I got the listing at 6%. And most people in the office were doing 4, maybe 5 if they knew the person, but I was prepared. I knew how I could make a connection with him. I knew what additional services I could bring into my marketing plan, like the dumpster to clean out the house before we took photographs, was bringing him value to get the house sold for the most amount of money in the least amount of time. So I did not cut my commission. When we got to that part in the presentation, he was like, okay. So don't ever feel like you have to do that to gain a listing. You don't. Now, depending on who you're meeting, I uncovered this second part of the slide through some training I've been doing with Tom Ferry, and I had never seen it before. And I think it's pretty interesting, maybe not in today's market because we know everything's going really, really quickly, over asking price, multiple offer situation. But I think this is a nugget for you as an agent in general to use depending on the seller you're in front of. So you can let them know, I typically present 3 different options when we're going through pricing based off my research and the market statistics I've pulled for you in your area. So option number 1 is we can really push the envelope on the price. We can go in above market. Option number 2, we price it at a fair market value based off the statistics. And then option number 3, we can kind of create a buyer frenzy here, price it below a fair market value to really, really gear up some traffic and activity. Now, I know currently in our market, all of these might not give the same results they did 2 years ago, but I do think that this is something that will separate you from other agents because I've never seen it done before. And I think it's just holds some value that you're automatically presenting them with options regarding the list price. We can go above market, we can come in at a fair value, we can go below market, and then explain to them the effects of those 3 prices and what you suspect the outcome will be based off of the activity, the response, and then the turnaround time to get the home sold. Any questions on this portion or up to this point? Any questions, comments, concerns so far? All right. Okay, so let's take a look at our listing presentation, which I thought I had open, but I don't. So guys, there's several ways to get to the listing presentation. In the zone dashboard, on the left-hand side, there's a tab at the bottom that says marketing. If you click the marketing tab, the listing presentation is right there. Also, you can go to the branding page, branding.realty1group.com. Under the essentials tab, the listing presentation is there as well. I know why it's not here because I already opened it. So it will download as a zip file. Just show you guys. It downloads as a zip file and it gives you 3 different versions of the presentation. So one's just like if you're doing a slide deck, the other is a vertical image in case you wanted to print it out like a sheet of paper. So you do have some different options there just regarding the style of the presentation. But let's take a look here. Now this is, again, 100% customizable. You can, if you don't have PowerPoint, this also easily converts into Google Slides, which is free with our Gmail account if you have a Gmail account from the office. So if you don't have Office Suite with PowerPoint on your computer, this is also compatible in Google Slides. I've tried it because I have a Chromebook. So just to keep that in mind. Now, a lot of people that are using this, you can put the slides in different orders. You can take slides out. You don't have to use everything in this listing presentation. You want to customize it to you and you want to customize it to your client. Some tips, like I said, if you can get to the house beforehand, it's okay to snap a few pictures here. So that way you can edit this slide and maybe this picture here is a photo of their home, right? Just to kind of make it more personal and to also show them that you put the time, effort, and energy in before you met them to make this presentation about them and their home. So this is some stuff from corporate that is used, our one purpose, our one manifesto, and that's just in line with our branding, right, as Realty One Group. So I think these are very, very cool slides that I typically put at the end, right before I go into, when I'm finishing talking about my marketing plan and before I go into pricing. This is understanding your wants, needs, and expectations. So on this slide, and again, this is just to have a visual, guys, right? Or I know previously a lot of people were doing listing presentations virtually. So if you ever have to do that again, this is great to have a visual for them to look at while you're presenting. But this is all about uncovering that why. You can put a picture of yourself here. Maybe you have your last 3 or 4 listings, the date, the price, and how long they were on the market, just to give them a visual while you're talking about them, and a visual on what you've done in the past. So that's one way I've seen this slide edited. Why I'm the one, again, I would save this for the end, your choice. Remember to have humility when you are talking about why you are the most qualified agent for that particular seller and for that home. And it is okay to follow up that with statistics and maybe some past client testimonials, your last listing, your last seller's experience, however you want to do it. That's going to resonate most with them. And it's going to show your hard work, your expertise, and your humble and your humility as an agent. This, a lot of you guys have probably seen this diagram here, which just kind of shows the growth of Realty One Group as a whole and how quickly we have grown since we started back in 2005. So this might just give them some value, especially if they haven't heard of Realty One Group. It's nice to show them who we are as a company and as an office, especially if they're unfamiliar. So here is a slide for the marketing strategy. And again, you can edit all of this stuff here. Like when I was going through some trainings, I never thought to offer cleaning services. It's a lot of work to prepare a home for going to market. And sometimes the seller might not have the time or the energy or the resources. So again, this may come into play if you get a chance to see the home prior to the appointment, but anything you can offer to them that you think is going to hold some value, especially if you have a contact for gutter cleaning or lawn care or house cleaning, to really, really make the home shine and be at its best before it goes to market. Please don't overpromise. If you don't have those connections or you don't have the resources to offer them to the client at no charge or a discounted fee, don't talk about it. Talk about what you can do that's within your means. It's just like cutting your commission for a listing. You don't want to overextend yourself just to get them to say yes. Make sure we are honest with what we can and cannot do. This slide is talking about first impressions. This is a great slide to tie into a professional photographer because we know that homes sell quicker with videography, with photography, even faster with videography or some drone footage. If it's got a lot of acres, depending on where the home is, it's just more engaging because we know over 95% of buyers start their search online. So the better our online presence is with the visuals of their home, the quicker it's going to sell. So you can talk about that here. First impression.
Alicia, I'm seeing your screen, which is not the listing that you're going through, what you're talking about. So I'm looking at
No, what?
I don't know.
I am so sorry.
Because
I don't know what you guys are looking at.
We're looking at that one screen, or the main screen of the dashboard. Yeah. Okay.
Oh no! What do you think? Oh my goodness, guys! I'm so sorry. So let's go back. I'm sorry about that. I thought you were looking at what I was looking at this whole time. So you can see it now.
No, that's better. Thank you.
Awesome. So sorry. Thank you for stopping me and letting me know. So I'll just go back through what I've touched on already, just so you guys can see. This was the one purpose and the one manifesto slide. This is just about us as a company. It's in line with our branding, being Realty One Group. Another one that I touched on here, I kind of tie in with those first two, just to kind of show the growth of our company as a whole. Again, like I said, especially if they're not familiar with Realty One Group, this is a great slide to throw in just to show who our company is and what makes us different from all the other companies out there. When I was talking about building the rapport and uncovering their motivation and their why, this is the slide that I've seen people edit with their previous listings, how quickly they sold, how many days they were on the market, just to give them a visual while we're talking about them and understanding their motivation. In the background, it's like, well, here's why I am qualified to meet those needs for you, which you can tie in with this slide. And again, guys, all of these image boxes, you can literally just copy and paste different images in there. So you can put your headshot here, or maybe your most recent listing or client testimonial. And here we were on the marketing strategy slide, where I was talking about you can change stuff here on the right side, especially if you have a chance to meet the client prior or see their home prior to the listing presentation. You can make this super, super specific. If not, you can use the standard stuff that's in there. You don't have to recreate the wheel. That's why this listing presentation is there. So you guys have a starting point, and don't have to make this all up by yourself. This was the slide, I believe, that Nasir stopped me on, so thank you for that, where I was talking about you can share with them why photography, videography, maybe drone footage is so valuable, because most buyers start their search online, and the first impression of their home is extremely, extremely important to getting people in the door. Some more slides here about home staging 101. Now, I had a rental listing over in Asbury Park on Deal Lake. It was just a 1-bedroom. Like, I probably wouldn't use a staging slide in that listing presentation. It's not applicable, especially in today's market. They wouldn't find any value in me talking about staging their 1-bedroom condo that they were only looking to rent at the time and not sell yet. So only use what you need to use when it's appropriate for the seller. This is a great visual just to kind of explain to them how you determine the price that you're going to suggest to them. So obviously we're looking at the location, the condition of their home, what the supply and the demand is, which I definitely would share some data with them on how crazy the market is. That's probably going to get them a little bit excited on how quickly things are going, what the typical economic trends are in their marketplace, and then strategic negotiations. Let them know what will happen when they find themselves in a multiple offer situation, which we know is very, very, very likely in today's market. Set the expectation for this potential seller on what you're going to do to see them through that, because we know it can be a little bit overwhelming. So this is a great area for you to stand out and spend some more time talking about navigating them through the negotiation part of the process when it comes to selling their home. This is a great visual about the initial list price. And even to go back to what I was saying about giving them 3 different options. We can go in high, we can go in at a fair market value, we can go in under market to create a buyer frenzy. We know that when we list over price, it's really, really hard to get people into the home and to sell it in a timely manner. So keep that in mind. If you need to explain that, if you've got a stickler of a seller who really has this price made up in their mind, and you know it's over what the home is actually worth, explain that to them in a way that will make sense, that the initial list price is critical. If we go in over the value of the home in today's market, we might not generate a lot of buyers. And then we might find ourselves in a situation where 3 weeks after that, we have to drop the price. And anytime we see that, guys, even as agents, when we see somebody adjust the price, we're like, So this is a great slide to use if you need to explain that to this potential seller. This is just some stats on buyers who are looking for a home. This probably, okay, perfect. This is just from last year, so it's up to date. I'm sure it probably looks a little bit different if they were to run it right now, but this is from NAR. It's great data. Use it if you need it, right? Depending on the type of client you're meeting, somebody would find tons and tons of value in this, like I would, because I like data, I like numbers. Another client might not find any use or value in this slide at all. Maximizing online exposure. You've got a visual here on what we do to market the home just with our company tools. And then obviously we know putting it on the MLS, it goes out to realtor.com and Zillow and Trulia and all of those sites. But here's another good way to separate yourself from your competition is we have List Hub. And if you guys don't know what that is, it's a syndication program that not only advertises their listings in our MLS and like through the other tools, but also anywhere in the world, which is pretty crazy when you think about it, but it really does give them maximum exposure. It's a tool you guys have in your arsenal that's no extra cost. And List Hub is just a syndication program where you can advertise their listing to anyone. So if there is somebody in Japan and they are looking for a 5-bedroom, 3.5-bath home in Manalapan, and that is the potential seller that you're sitting in front of, you know, I would give the example that I can market your home anywhere. I can give you maximum exposure at no additional cost because of the tools I have to use here with Realty One Group. Power of social media. Large online footprint, right? We know, again, this is a great place where you can share if you have listing to leads as one of your tools, one of your programs, explain to them what that does and gets those ads put out in Google and Facebook to over market their home so everybody is seeing it, even across social media platforms. You can also let them know about our app. That's people can use that app like Zillow, so they could be searching from anywhere in the country and come across their listing that you're marketing. And if they reach out, you will be the person to represent them that way. More on social media, more on going global. Again, this slide is specifically about List Hub, that program. You have a slide built out if you wanted to add some client testimonials and then explaining the process. If at this point they're ready to move forward with you, you're getting ready to sign the contract, you can kind of let them know where we go from there. So the CMA, which you've probably already discussed at this point, pricing, which you've probably already discussed as well. Then you do the listing agreement and disclosures, initiate their market plan. So whether the first step is yard work or staging or cleaning, and then scheduling the photographer, whatever the process looks like. Then you get the lockbox on and install the yard sign, and then maybe run your first open house. You can customize this, guys. You can change it to fit that particular seller. You can share some additional marketing pieces that we have, or maybe some additional things that you want to bring in to your listing presentation, or maybe some of the specific vendors that you work with who help you market and sell the home. This is a great slide to tie that in. And lastly, achieving greater success faster. We are in this together. This reminds me what Mike said in the beginning, to remind that seller that you are a part of their team, and that it is not just on them to do everything, that you're going to be with them every step of the way. This is just some statistics on Realty One Group as a whole. Again, if you want to build more value around who we are as a company and our brand. And then at the bottom, you have some empty slides where you can add additional content. If you wanted to add other things into this presentation, we've got empty slides there for you guys as well. So, questions, comments, concerns? No?
I got a comment just for the newer agents. I mean, everybody gets tied up in the listing presentations, but please, when you go to visit these people, number one, make sure you have a listing agreement and a seller disclosure. Because what are you going to do halfway through the presentation? They say, "Yeah, I want to sell," and you don't have the listing agreement. That's all I wanted to say.
Good point. I know an agent that keeps listing agreements, exclusive buyer agreements, and the consumer information statement in their truck at all times, just in case they find themselves in a situation where they need it. It's always there. But Mike is correct. Assume they're going to say yes. Assume they're going to love you and want to do business with you and want you to represent their home. So make sure you show up with the agreement ready to go and the CIS statement ready to go, so you can walk away with the signature then and there. Anything else, guys? I know we've got some newer agents on the call. Do you guys have any questions? I still have a little over 5 minutes, so if there was any other value or questions I could answer, now would be the time to ask. All righty. Well, I hope you guys got some value out of this. I hope you learned something that you didn't know before, especially for my seasoned agents. You guys are kicking butt out there. You guys have my email. You've got me in the WhatsApp. If you need me, have questions, don't hesitate to reach out. And I will be posting this on the YouTube channel. I'll put the link in the WhatsApp group if anybody needs to rewatch it later. Okay?
Philly, can I still talk to you about the signature thing?
Yes, if you just want to stay on, I can walk through that really quickly if you just want to stay on.
Okay.
We're just going to go over quickly, guys, editing your email signature. So if anybody hasn't done that yet or wants to see that, you are welcome to stay on with Soroya and I. Okay, let me share my screen again. Let me know if I'm sharing the right screen this time. Okay, do you see the branding page?
Yes.
Soroya? Okay, perfect. So first, I know you already have the regular signature, but just for anybody who's watching who doesn't have their signature branded, I'll show you where to go for that. So I'm just on the branding page, branding.realty1group.com. Under the Essentials tab, you've got our email signature template right here. So you can just come over, download, simple as copy and paste. So now I'm gonna hop over into my email. And edit the signature. So up here is the settings wheel. Just hit settings. And right here, we want to go into see all settings. And then scroll down just a little bit and you've got your email signature. Now, Soroya, I'm not going to edit mine, but I'll show you how I got the picture there. We'll just create a new one. Template. So I just copied the downloaded signature here. I just copied this. I'm just going to paste it. You would edit this information, right? So test, training purpose. Obviously, you put the office address, the office number, and I'm sorry, your mobile number, then the office number, and then it's got some branding here about us as a company at the bottom. Now, the way you add a photo is what I did is I just spaced a little bit, and right here, you can insert an image. Now, these are just old images. Okay, here's my heads up. And then it comes in pretty large. So I just hit it to the small size and then that's it. Did you get that?
Yeah, so you hit the little photo thing at the bottom to get that to come in.
Yep, it's that simple. You just hit this insert image. You can find the picture on your computer and then it's going to come in pretty large. So when you click on it, you just hit the small size. That's what I did.
Okay. I hope, because
And then it'll be right above your.
I usually send emails from the mail app on my Mac computer. So I just hope it like transfers over. Okay.
You may need to edit the signature specifically for that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, like if you have if you have the mail app for Apple, I'm sure there's a way you can edit your signature. So maybe do it in Gmail first and then copy and paste that whole signature into your Apple Mail to make sure it's the same.
That's a good idea. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, guys, anything else before I let you guys go? Cool. Well, happy Tuesday. Thanks for spending the time. Reach out if you have any other questions, and I'll speak with you guys soon.
Thank you.
You're welcome, guys. Have a good day.